my first instinct is, yeah. But then again, I told him, I said, just be careful. You got to manage your expectations, because they're still going through an identity crisis. And if you join someone that has an identity crisis, you're going to become subject to that as well. And so, with Pete, my advice is, well, make sure that the reason that you're joining might be to go in to help them versus needing their help at this particular point to help you. And so it's one of those, yeah, we can help them, but we got to help them get it back on their feet initially there.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. I'm going to ask
Cassandra's got a hand
Cassandra.
up there,
Yeah,
Rich.
and you're closer to separation, Cassandra. Not only what you have to say, but where are the gaps?
I want to talk about, first, what Pete asked you, Maurice. Same thing. I have and prior to telling you guys or talking about this, I actually never really looked into being a part of American Legion or VFW, because for me, naturally, I just came out of the military and I was like, I already had whatever situations, like I don't drink, I don't smoke, and then I just put that with I mean, I didn't mind it. Like, I didn't mind it being in the military, but that's just not, I was just like, oh, most of everyone that was inviting me to these, they were like, hey, we're going to have a barbecue. We're going to be, and I'm like, oh, okay. But I do see in Imperial Beach, their American Legion, what some of my friends are in, they stay there and they have barbecues and they have other things like cookouts where they invite the community to kind of come through and see what they're about, and also supporting the American Legion community there. And it's totally different. It's not like that. But that was just my first, getting out 2014. I was kind of like, wait, I don't think this is a good idea. And of course, I was already volunteering at my kids' school. I'm heavily involved in the church. So it was just I already have my community, that I had camaraderie with, and we had a military group as well at our church, and we would go with other military groups, come together with other churches for that. So, I mean, it's each person has their own community that they, like to be involved in. But so I was with Pete, okay, now when we're talking about the conversation and I'm driving everywhere, just in my general area, blocks, 5 blocks is an American Legion that we always see, and they always have, they're always talking to the kids that are playing baseball down the hill from them. And my younger son always points that out, oh, what are they doing? And I'm like, oh, that is a American Legion right there. And it's right by a park. And so their atmosphere, I haven't even talked to any of them, but going in, but their community, their I guess their spirit, their mission is about their community around them. So you see more people there around there. And even if you're not a part of the American Legion, they're always saying hi and, talking about the next things. And they're at the events at the park. So whoever has events, bigger events at the park, they are there just with their table, their booth, or they're volunteering in that part of the community. And then they're across the street from what is it called? Community. They'll come to me. I used to volunteer for them as well. And they're more on helping the unsheltered. They have a food distro. They have unsheltered people that are always hanging around there, even when they're closed, and with tents, and it's a safe zone. Chula PD, they're there to check on people, PERT. So I know that they're involved with that, which is great, because they've only been there for 4 years, I believe. So I'm with Pete. I was like, wow, do I need to join one? Okay, because it's about the community around them and who they serve, and that's what brings the value, and that's what the members, they feel. I would assume, I haven't talked to them, but you feel valued because you're helping, and then there's people coming and they're interested, and then they also get to help. I was thinking about this during the week. Like I said, Pete was doing his research. I was on Facebook with my women's groups, all the military groups, asking this same question. I said, I just put out there, American Legion versus VFW, which one do you recommend or whatnot? And so that brought that dialogue on the 5 different groups that I'm in, and I'm still chatting. And then people were messaging me now, like, what other more information do you need? And they're like, I'm talking to people that are like, I'm the lead of this, I'm the commander of this. And so it's just really exciting because they know the value of it. And my heart just, like, when you talk about it, Maurice, you know me, I'm a crier. But the whole thing is like they're valued, and I'm hoping during this, and like it just spreads, that we can find the purpose that connects the generations. I think that's the huge thing for me, the purpose that connects, which we're all connected in some way. We just need to find that hot spot. We need to be directed on that.
What
was your other question, Richard? Sorry, go ahead.
If I could just add, so thank you, Cassandra, because you just gave me another dimension about the American Legion that I forgot to add to my dialogue, which is they're neighborhood based, which is perfect. I mean, they're like right around the corner, so to speak. And so there's a whole lot of value to them. Again, they have their challenges, and that's sort of what we're working with them to help them get past it. But if we can do this, it could be a big game changer in the whole military to civilian transition process, because these are the boots on the ground, and they're involved in, family activities, community activities. I mean, there's so many things. Yes, they have, and I love your comparison. Yes, they still have a reputation or image of the bars and the drinking and all of that. And I think that's sort of like
they call it the good old boys club or something.
It is a good old boys club, and so they have some work to do. But think about it like this: they're not going to get out of that bubble unless we help them get out of the bubble. And so if we want them to be strong, it's just like our government and our cities and our homes and our towns. If we want them to be strong, then we have to get involved to make the difference, if you will. What's that phrase that Rich uses? Be the change that you want, if you will. Rich, back over to you.
Yeah, great. So thank you, Cassandra. You did answer my other question, which is what are some of the gaps? But I noticed you mentioned community a couple times. You said you had a community coming out support group, and then you mentioned volunteerism with one of the other ones. So what would you say is the value of community and maybe volunteerism in a transition process?
Ooh, big, yeah.
It just helps you. For me, it helped me stay encouraged. It helped me have the old, like not old relationships, the seasoned relationships and the new relationships to help me move forward, like the support of moving forward, having other people's insight and giving my insight and just sharing. It's like that relationship, the give and take, the communication, the yin and the yang.
And it sounds like that might be really important part of a healthy transition, but also might be difficult for some people to find or engage in communities, and some people do that more easily than others. So maybe there needs to be a much easier access to communities and volunteerism and things like that, where they could be reaching out to the transitioning veteran to come in, where it's not all on the veteran's shoulders to even figure that out or go find a group that they fit with.
And I agree, because you're talking about the group. We're all interested in different things.
Yeah.
We all connect to different things. Me, I naturally do meet and greets. I naturally volunteer. I naturally like to pull information from people that I don't know. That's just a natural thing for me. But for then being honest, like people that I do know, it's kind of like I have to take a moment, to get my thoughts and gather and everything. But we all have our superpower. We all have our thing that God has purposed in our life to do that just comes naturally. I was gonna even more when you're talking about the connection, possibly Maurice, you're talking about. I guess I'm trying to figure out, because you're saying like you're in the group, correct? And you're talking to them about what is, like to help them, recruit. We could probably change the name, but recruit, or the title, recruit. and then you're saying that they're doing pushback because they want it their way. My question is, what is their way? I'm just trying to find so that I can understand it and do more research on that.
Well, I think great question. Very good question. I think what it is it goes back to that word of fear that I'd mentioned. Um, things will change, and it'll no longer be as you pointed out, the good old boys club where they're used to just telling their stories, to one another, and it makes them feel good, versus now having to open up and be receptive to newer, younger ideas and what you want to do and what you're interested in and what makes you happy versus talking about what made them happy. And so there's a comfort zone issue where a lot of them have just reached that comfort zone, and they've over the years just become a sort of like a social conservative club. That's not my words. That's their words.
Right.
They're basically saying, "Hey, we're just an old social conservative club."
But they
And
can
I,
look at their numbers, Maurice, and they know that if they would actually look at the numbers, they are going down rapidly.
well, and they're obsessed with that. And I'm working really closely. I'm on a new committee that's really looking into how to re reinvent the American Legion and bring members in. And one of the things that I told him, and this is why we're having our battle, I said, well, look, you have to give the younger veterans something. You can't tell them that it's got to be your way. And if they come in and got to, hang out at the bar, they have to tell old sea stories because younger veterans aren't into that. Younger veterans are going to ask you, what are you going to do for me? How are you going to help me with my transition? And my point to them is, look, then if that's the value that younger veterans are asking for, then give them what they're looking for. Become a navigator, help them with the transition, get to understand them, get outside of your comfort zone. And so some are okay with that, others are not. And as you can imagine, you have a lot of retired individuals that are really set in their way. And so I think sometimes, what's that old phrase? People have to learn to get out of their own way in order to be successful. So some of their personalities are really strong and they just want to keep it the way it is. And basically they're saying, well, if they come in, they got to subscribe to our patriotism. And I'm trying to gently, and I'm using the word selectively, gently let them know it ain't about you anymore. It's about the next generation. And if you want
Yeah.
to survive, you got to give the next generation what they're looking for. You have to make this tomorrow's American Legion, not yesterday's American Legion. And Stacy, I'd be really interested in your thoughts on this also.
About giving it to the next generation?
Or just about the topic overall, what are your thoughts about the American Legion? Was it a consideration, or is there one near your home, where you're residing?
Yeah, I'm not really sure about that. I know that like growing up, it was a huge thing because my grandmother like helped run it out in Virginia and she always signed me up for it. So I never knew like what it was because she would like put her address as mine, so she would get everything. So I mean, I've heard about it, but I never knew that it would like help. Like, I'm in my 30s. I didn't know it would help somebody like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I never heard about it when I was in the military. I never heard about it like anything like that. So
Yeah.
I just I knew the name, but I didn't know what it did.
And I've seen them everywhere my whole life, and I never knew what they did. I mean, I see like American Legion, VFW, Elks Club, the Masons, the Rotary, like all these fraternal organizations. My whole life, I just viewed them as old guy clubs, and that's that's not good. But if you would like, as Cassandra's talking and Stacy, I'm thinking of some benchmarking. If you look at some organizations, so a lot of the churches in America have gone through this same crisis of getting old and membership dwindling and going down. But there are many in America that are multi-generational. They're kind of newer with a new vision that actually are inclusive to all generations. They actually have figured it out how to actually address all generations. So that might be an interesting organization to benchmark. You know, some of the different churches, different sizes that actually include all generations and have kind of renewed themselves because they have to be relevant to all